And do you have a vision when you create a song? Is there always a vision, or can you tell us about some?
You know, the songwriting process is a very magical process. I never know really when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. For me, the best songs, or almost all my songs, really have been when I've allowed the music to take me. It's not a mental process. I've sat down on a piano or at my guitar and just started playing. And after about 10 minutes, I'm just enjoying the sound of the instrument, and close my eyes usually and just let the music just take me. And then some unusual, unexpected things will happen. And you know, obviously there's a place in me that's just watching and listening and enjoying. And if I hear something, wow, that's interesting, I'll just go in that direction and play it again, and then something will be born. And I really do believe that art really comes from a place that's very difficult to define. I think you can say it comes from your heart, but I don't believe great art often comes from the mind. That's just my belief. I think you know, a lot of classical composers say it was God writing through them. Well, I know that feeling. I know that feeling when things happen, that wow, where did that come from? You know, because inspiration, I really do believe you can call it God, or you can call it from your subconscious or superconscious, or from your soul, from your heart. It's been described in many ways, but I think inspiration really does come from a very special, magical, profound place. And but first of all, you do have to have the technique down. It can't happen if you're thinking, where am I going to put my fingers or whatever. You've got to have that kind of natural ability or natural knowledge of music or painting or whatever it is first, and then that'll grow into, or sometimes can grow into being inspired and creating in that way.
For example, It's Raining Again. Can you tell us how this came up, the song?
It's Raining Again, yeah. It was, well, I have a pump organ at home.
What is that?
A pump organ is a harmonium.
Okay.
It's one you pump with your feet, you know, and it's like an organ, but you pump the air through it. I've written a lot of songs on this pump organ, but it was really a day when I was feeling sad because I'd lost a friend, I'd lost a friendship, and I was looking outside, and it was in England, it was pouring with rain, and literally the song just, I started playing these chords on this pump organ, and you know, and I just started singing, "It's raining again." And the actual the first version of it was much slower and more melancholy. And then when I recorded it with Supertramp, we decided to increase the tempo.
You said that you had a spiritual rebirth in 2002. What happened?
Well, for me, my compass in life starts with my spiritual life. I mean, I really, that is what I try. For me, that's living life from my heart, and it's not always easy to do that, you know. And the stresses and the demands and all the busyness of life, it's easy to move up into here and try and figure it all out from here. But when I'm really centered in my heart, I intuitively sense what needs to happen, what I need to say. My life works, and for many years I lost touch with that. I lost touch with that compass, if you like, and so the spiritual rebirth I'm talking about was I had an awakening, and I got back into making that a real centerpiece of my life, out of which everything else comes out of, you know. So when I leave the stage, when I leave the tour, when I go back home or whatever, what's really important is what's happening inside me, not the applause or the success or the gold albums or the money or anything else. It's what's really important is my spiritual compass being alive and solid inside me.
What creates a spiritual ecstasy in a performance?
One of my main job as a performer really starts first thing in the morning when I wake up. I mean, when I come on stage, I try to be as clear and as empty and as in tune, if you like, in order to sing as deeply from my heart and my soul as I can. Now, I can't do that if I'm carrying on stage all my stuff that I've been doing during the day and emails and everything else, you know. So that is maybe what you're talking about. I try and really be a clear channel, really, on stage to give a little bit of my love. That's really what I try to do in these concerts. Is literally that simple. I just give a little bit of my love, give a little bit of what I love to do. And because in a way, with the audience and the performer, I'm just a mirror. And if I'm going on stage all angry or upset or whatever, then I'm just going to be transmitting that to the audience. And if I'm going on stage at peace in my heart, if I'm feeling loving, if I'm having fun, then they're going to feel that, and that's going to be touched in them too, and they're going to go home feeling hopefully wonderful. That's how I see my job.
In 1987 you had an accident and the doctor told you could never be a musician or play music again. How did you experience that?
Well, that was a huge moment in my life. It was a big life change, if you like. It was 4 years after I left Supertramp, and it was at a time where I was really going through a lot. And basically, when I had the accident and smashed my wrists, that was when I went to the hospital and the doctor said, "You'll never play music again." That was the first thing the doctor said. So for a musician, obviously, it was like my life had stopped. And from that point, my manager had to leave to go find work. Everyone around me had to leave. So suddenly I was really alone with my family for the first time. And my family really helped take care of me for quite a few months until my hands could do anything. But the biggest thing I had to look at was, wow, are the doctors right? And it was a very hard time for me. Initially I got very depressed and down and thought, well, my life is over, because my purpose in life was so wrapped up in being a musician. So it really did bring up a lot of questions in me, but the biggest thing was that I decided I wasn't going to accept what the doctors had told me. And for the next year and a half, I worked incredibly hard. I prayed. I was incredibly determined to make these wrists work. And after about a year and a half, they were fine again. But it took a lot, and it was that first decision when I decided I'm not going to be depressed anymore. You know, I really believe God gave me this gift, and I want to share it. That's so much wrapped up in the purpose of my life. I'm not going to take the doctor's words, and that's the day I started fighting.
is over, you're playing in the park. Well, don't be out too late, don't let it get too dark.
How does your next steps look like? What are your next plans?
Yeah, well, I'm really, my heart is really calling me into touring right now. And as hard as it gets sometimes, all this travel, I mean, I just like a lot of the reactions I get from people who write to me and say how moved they were, or how special it was to hear songs that have took them back to their, you know, a time in their life when something was happening. So there's going to be a lot more touring, I think, next year, and I hope there is talk of a whole tour of Scandinavia. I really have a special love for Denmark. I think you've done a lot right, and I really missed coming back more often to Denmark. So that is also on the schedule to come and play in Denmark more next year.
Sounds nice. Looking forward to see you.
Yeah, me too.
And of course, the very last question: will Supertramp ever be reunited?
At this point, it doesn't look likely. I have tried a few times over the years, and I don't see it happening. And one of the things I feel is that I would hate for it to happen and people to get really disappointed. A lot of people come to this show of mine, and they a lot of real diehard fans who wanted me to rejoin Supertramp, and now they're saying, don't do it. We love your solo show, because they're feeling a lot of the magic that they think they would get from a Supertramp reunion. So I'm very happy to have having the reunion with my fans that I've been having, and when people come to see my show, they'll obviously hear a lot of the hits and a lot of the songs that they would like to hear.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for the interview, Roger. Hope to see you next year in Denmark, and I wish you a very nice show tonight. Thank you very much.
Katrine.
Give a little bit of your love to me. I'll give a little bit of my love to you. There's so much that we need to share, so send a smile and show that you care.